The current set of select graphs examines distinctions in ratings crossed by identity as a member of the LGBTQ2S+ community, comparing those who said yes, they are a member, no, they are not a member, or that they prefer not to indicate whether they are a member. You'll notice for many of these distinctions that those who preferred not to answer the question gave ratings that fall in between the ratings of those who identified yes, they are a member, and those who said no, they're not a member. One possible explanation for this is that those who prefer not to identify their membership in the LGBTQ2S+ community are in fact members, but have not been comfortable making this identity public or come out. Unless otherwise stated, all distinctions mentioned in this presentation are statistically significant. For this first slide, you'll see that those who said yes, they are a member of the LGBTQ2S+ community report in much lesser proportion as males, followed closely by those who prefer not to indicate their membership. Both those who said yes and those who said that they prefer not to answer this question also report in greater proportion that they prefer not to identify their gender. Although those who said yes report in greater proportion identifying their gender as one other than male or female. Those who said that they are not a member of the LGBTQ2S+ community reported in much greater proportion as males. A smaller distinction, those who identify as members of the LGBTQ2S+ community report in lesser proportion that they receive outside tutoring support other than extra help provided by the school. LGBTQ2S+ students reported in greater proportion sleeping less than 6 hours on school nights, with those who preferred not to answer following close behind. Grade 9 to 12 students who did not identify as members of the LGBTQ2S+ community reported greater agreement with the statement, "I am comfortable being myself at school." Those who responded no to this question also reported greater agreement with the statement, "I am enthusiastically involved in out-of-classroom activities," while those who prefer not to identify whether they are a member reported lesser agreement. One of the few measures trending in this direction, those students who identified as members of the LGBTQ2S+ community reported greater agreement with the statement, "I am passionate about the study of at least one subject." Both those who identify as members of the LGBTQ2S+ community and those who prefer not to answer reported lesser agreement with the statement, "I enjoy the social aspect of my dining experience at school." "I feel a strong sense of belonging at the school." "I feel capable of handling the day-to-day academic workload." "I feel emotionally safe while at school." "I feel encouraged to express my opinion." "I feel I have personal control over most of my successes and failures." "I feel respected and valued at school." "I feel that I gain meaningful positive value from being a member of the school community." "I feel that I make a meaningful positive contribution to the experience of others within the school community." "I feel treated as an individual with unique needs, interests, and talents." "I feel well supported at school as I strive to meet my potential." And "I have at least one close friend at school." While the ratings for each of these three groups are above 4.0, it is possible that those who prefer not to answer are less likely to have at least one close friend because they do not feel they have a strong enough sense of belonging at school to be themselves, assuming the theory that they are members of the LGBTQ2S+ community who have not yet come out. Looking at students' levels of attitudinal agreement with the statement, "The school deals well with issues of bullying on campus," we see that they are all relatively low across the board. Furthermore, we see that those who identify as members of the LGBTQ2S+ community reported much lesser agreement with this statement, followed by those who preferred not to indicate whether they are a member. Looking to the series of skills measures, we see that those who identified as members of the LGBTQ2S+ community and those who preferred not to answer reported lesser self-appraised preparedness for adapting to face new challenges. These students also reported lesser self-appraised preparedness for advocating for themselves, assuming a leadership role, conducting themselves with confidence, coping with peer pressure, handling stressful situations, making choices that support my emotional well-being, organizing time effectively, and working cooperatively in a group. Students who identified as members of the LGBTQ2S+ community reported in greatest proportion having been personally affected by experiences of discrimination at school at a rate of 43%, while those who preferred not to answer reported experiencing discrimination at a rate of 29.1%. In contrast, 17.9% of those who did not identify as members of this community reported experiencing discrimination at school. Even when discrimination was not related to students' membership in the LGBTQ2S+ community, these students reported in greater proportion having been discriminated against based on their race. Expectedly and unfortunately, those who identify as members of the LGBTQ2S+ community reported in much greater proportion having experienced discrimination because of their gender identity. To a lesser extent, those who prefer not to answer also reported more discrimination on this basis, compared to those who do not identify as members of this community. The same is true for discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation. And to a lesser extent, the same is true for experiences of discrimination based on politics. Finally, another interesting finding, students who identify as members of the LGBTQ2S+ community are in greater proportion attending schools located in the United States.